This is Inside the Game, where passion meets precision. Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wengler, and John Natale are your hosts, breaking down every goal, every controversy, every match that matters. From the heart of American soccer to the global stage. No fluff, just football. Weekdays at 9 a.m. live on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all listening platforms.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wengler, and John Natale.
Good morning, and happy 100th, everybody. It is the 100th episode. I'm Jonathan Turner along Nathan Wengler, and none other than John Natale.
They got it. They got it right on the voiceover there. He got it right.
So, anyways, we are excited to have you along here today, and it is episode number 100. We've done 99 previous episodes, but today is 100, and I don't think I've ever been a part of 100 shows before. I know we talk about like maybe 100 soccer games or whatever, but 100 podcasts, that's pretty cool.
Got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I can tell it's beginning to grow too, because you even look at social media land, and John, you were talking about yesterday how those last two shows have flowed really well, and I thought they have too. And I thought whenever we have those real down to earth conversations about the state of soccer in the United States, I think people really latch onto that stuff because I think there are a lot of parents out there that can relate to it uniquely. Peter, what's going on, man? Thanks for hopping on for 100. He's been probably the most loyal follower of our show every step of the way, so we appreciate your stopping back in every time, Peter, and being the first comment pretty much every morning. But like yesterday, I put those couple of videos up, John, and I thought you had a really good point about the state of really youth sports in general. Like, yeah, we can talk about soccer, and I think the soccer space fascinates me the more that I learn about it, because I feel like I learn more and more with every passing day, and it becomes more confusing. It doesn't become easier to understand with every passing day. It becomes more and more confusing with how many teams and how many players and how much money. And I think whenever we're willing to actually go to that level and talk about things inside the game, hence the name, and bring on people that understand exactly what's going on, people gravitate towards that. And I'm seeing that happen in real time. And, it's nice to talk about the big dogs, but truth is, like, kind of like major sports here in the United States, I see people start podcasts and they're like, well, I want to talk about the NBA. It's like, okay, well, there are people out there who have a lot more credibility, who have been around the game for a much longer time, who are talking about the same exact thing. So you might get an audience, you might get people to stop by, but truth is I can dial my radio station to the ESPN affiliate, or I can go to online to this podcast, or I can just search up The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and I can listen to all that stuff all day, every day. But what a lot of people don't do is they don't talk about, youth athletics. They don't talk about, when you first get in the door and all the issues that surround the development of athletes in the United States, and really that foundational level, because everything starts there. Yeah, we can talk about the big dogs, but everything starts down here. And it's a massive, massive amount of people that go through the stuff that we talk about every day. And it's amazing to see the results of what it is that we're talking about on social media, because like I said, people are gravitating towards it. So I think it's cool what we're doing. I think it's cool that we've kind of shifted our focus to that element of the game, and especially of the soccer space, because again, I'm learning right along everybody else, and it is fascinating to say the least. Peter says Natale, just like the Eagles movie.
Vince Papale, he's got it. Good reference. That's a great reference.
The deep pull there.
Mark. That's a great point, Nate. And the thing that we're really starting to conceptualize on here is that the topics that we're talking on are topics that everybody can relate to. It'd be hard pressed to find someone who didn't play a youth sport. when they were growing up. I mean, there are people out there, unfortunately, certain circumstances and whatnot, but it's harder to find a person that hasn't played a youth sport than it is a person who played a professional sport.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we can't do the things that professional athletes do. We just can't. We can mimic it. We can try. We can do the same thing. Like, can
video
you
games?
Throw? Yes. Can you shoot? Can you kick a ball into the back of the net? Yes. Can you do it the precision and accuracy and power and all that kind of stuff? No, we just can't do that. But we all had an experience growing up, whether it was doing our own youth sports or it was watching a sibling or a cousin or a friend or whatever it was. We can all relate to that. And I think that's the topics that we're diving into. Being able to talk about everything is relatable. And talking about Red Lobsters, talking about Targets, talking about Texas Roadhouse, talking about youth soccer, talking about high school athletics and just high school life in general. And all of that stuff is relatable to every single one of us. We're talking on topics where everybody can chime in with an opinion that they have. Unlike talking about the NFL, well, okay, I'm a Cleveland Browns analyst. Well, there's only so many Cleveland Browns fans, not many. And what really going to talk about? That's not being covered on 10,000 other platforms that are talking about the same exact thing. We can change it up. Yes, we are Inside the Game podcast with a soccer ball in it, but we are diving into soccer and we are diving into Little League and we are diving into AAU and youth football and even volleyball. I mean, just the other day, a good friend of mine back from high school, a longtime friend, actually since first grade in elementary school, has a 13-year-old daughter now. And he texts me, he's like, I am so effing sick and tired of traveling around for volleyball. It's too damn expensive. We're never home. I'm hanging out more with 13-year-old girls than I am watching TV or doing anything like that. And it's driving me nuts. Like, he was angry about it. And this was about 12:45 at night. And my man was upset because he was stuck in a hotel in Cincinnati for a volleyball tournament that he had to get up at 9 o'clock in the morning to start volleyball matches. So it has become ridiculous, but we all have those stories. And I think that's a great point to bring up, is that we're bringing up topics that anybody who goes into the comment section, anybody that subscribes, logs in, does whatever, they can chime in too with their own personal story and relate it to what we're talking about.
I think people are just getting sick of it. I think people are getting sick and tired of the extreme amount of work that it takes to make all of that work, and the expectations that are built for the athletes themselves is that you need to be doing this. This needs to happen. You need to be on these teams. You need to be on these clubs. If you want a fighting chance to play at the next level, there really is no choice. You have to. And that's been the biggest shift, at least we talked about yesterday, from when you guys played, and even when I played. I think it was a lot different than what it is now. Yeah, there were clubs and stuff, but I felt like it was more realistic for more people. But the pressure now to play on the travel team or to play on, even I was talking to someone else the other day who's a youth softball coach, and, he works at the Whitecaps. He's one of our scoreboard operators. And it's fascinating because I just talk about a few of the things that we mention on the show. And it's like an Energizer bunny, man. You just wind him up and watch him go, because he can go on for hours, and he was talking about like Diamonds, which is, like I talked about the other day, the travel team over here in Grand Rapids. They have four 10U teams, I think, 4 different 10U squads. A lot of those kids would have played Little League once upon a time. A lot of those kids would have, filtered in the different leagues here in Grand Rapids, but now we're pretty much down to 2 different little leagues. Like, they've all joined together because they just don't have enough kids. Because again, the travel world is where it's at now, and it really doesn't matter what sport it is. So an extreme amount of money. And then you factor in, they have jobs too. They have things they have to do Monday through Friday. And then all of a sudden their entire weekend is filled up with, we got to travel here, travel there, and play 1,700 games, and I think people are just getting sick of it at the end of the day.
JT, because you're in the same age bracket as me and Nate, you probably experienced this a little bit, but you kind of fell into more of where we're at now than JT and I did. And JT, when you were younger, I mean real young, like let's say 10, 11, 12 years old, and you were teaching yourself of how to play the game, right? What were you doing to do that? And I'm not talking going out, with academy teams or travel teams or anything like that, what were you doing on your own time to practice to get better at soccer?
At 10 or 11?
Yeah. I mean, like going out in the backyard.
I mean, probably just kicking the ball around with my friends. I don't think that there was anything, specific, right? I don't think my specialized kind of like my individual stuff kind of started to pick up until I was a little older than that. But I would say just kicking the ball around with my friends, like playing out in the backyard, playing in the park, just going and shooting the ball.
Just taking one ball, get a bunch of your buddies and find an open spot and just do it, right?
And to be fair, a lot of my neighborhood friends, we didn't play. To be fair, what actually prepared me more, I think, for soccer was not playing it with my friends, playing roller hockey, playing basketball, playing other sports, which allowed me to use other, trying to figure out just other tools, other attributes to kind of help me be a better player. I think those things help prepare me more than actually playing the soccer ball.
Like for me, we had a gremlin. Yes, that's a car. If anybody's not familiar with that.
Oh yeah, we know what it is.
We had a rock driveway to the right. We had a regular driveway and we parked that thing to the right. But I had this old literally an aluminum bat. If you would hit it with a baseball today, it would bend. But I would go out into our field behind our house and I just toss up rocks, little pebble rocks, and just try to hit it with this bat. And the second thing I did is we got a tennis racket, which none of us played tennis. My parents were those people that, hey, let's get a piece of equipment and never use it. And I would just go in the back field and just hit that tennis ball as high as I could and watch it all the way down and try to collect it on the tennis racket just to get my hand-eye. And I'm 11, 12 years old doing this, just taking little means, throwing a tennis ball against the garage and doing stuff like that. And Nate, to your point, now you have to buy a $40 a month pass to some batting cage that is automatic, and you got to use your app in order to get it to work, or you have to be in an academy team or a travel team and all this kind of stuff. And the training technology, it's like the old school thing of again, going to a park with your friends or just shooting hoops in the backyard on a 8-foot hoop that was tilted this way. But that's how your shot got good, because if you can make it in that, you can make it on a level 10-foot hoop. And you don't see that anymore. There's so many kids up and down my street here, and there's not a basketball hoop outside. And I'm in the state of Indiana, the state that you say, oh, there's a basketball hoop on every house. No, there's not. You lied about that one, lazy ass kids. Sorry.
No, you're right.
That came out harsh. But they don't. There's not a basketball hoop. I never see kids on the street, car, playing football, and then the car comes, they all split to the side and then get back to their formation, anything like that. It just doesn't happen today. I never see it.
It amazes me. And I don't want to tee off on the kids. And I know, Turner, I got to let you hop in here at some point. But what's amazing is the other part that's fascinating is these teams, even at these youngest of ages, like middle school, not even in high school quite yet. I mean, they have systems where it's like they literally they stream everything. They have live stats. They have all these other things in middle school. It's like, I don't ever remember anyone streaming a damn thing at any one of my games. I mean, yeah, we had one older dude in the crowd that was keeping book on the game, and that's how we knew what stats were and how things were. It's Jerry who was keeping physical book by himself, but we didn't have all of these resources. We didn't have all of these things, but now everything's so specialized now, and it doesn't make sense. Back in my day, I say back in my day, geez, it wasn't that long ago, but still, everyone tried different positions. Everyone tried different things. We tried to figure out where everyone fit and where everyone worked. And, you went out and played. And now it's like, well, no, I'm a catcher. Like, really? You know this? You've decided for yourself that you're a catcher. Your skill set tells me you're more of a second baseman, first baseman, but yet some coach somewhere along the line convinced you you're a catcher, and then you have to get specialized training in this area, because if you don't, then you're not going to make it. But it's like you're freaking 10 years old. What do you mean you're a catcher? What do you mean you're this or you're that? You don't know anything. You don't even know who you are yet. What do you mean you know what position you are? Yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyways, Turner, go ahead. Feel free. Welcome in.
Welcome into your 100th episode.
Who would have thought it would take 100 episodes for me not to say anything for like 10 minutes? It was pretty good, actually. Normally, I'm on a soapbox to start the show. It was actually nice, though, listening to both of you talk. Yeah, okay. I mean, so I don't know if there's a lot to unpack there. The world obviously has changed dramatically, right? The technology that we now have access to, which in turn we call laziness, has really just created this opportunity for people to do more with, at their fingertips than they've ever been able to do before. I remember when video games first came out. Well, not when they first came out, but I remember we had an Atari, right? And then Atari went to like Nintendo, right?
1985,
right? And then Nintendo went to like Sega Genesis, and then there was like
Super Nintendo, then Sega Genesis.
Yeah,
get it right. Get the timeline right.
Damn it. But at that time, all you could do the Commodore computer is what I had my first computer, right?
Commodore 64.
Yeah, right.
Did you have the toothbrush game? Did you have the toothbrush game?
We had the Paperboy, right? We had that. And then we had like the Olympics, and then there was the Oregon Trail, right? So you had like those three games. And that was like our, you think about this, okay, that's what you could do. So it was either you were outside playing, and you'd come in and watch maybe like the one. Was it on Sunday nights? There was America's Funniest Home Videos. We all got around the TV.
Oh yeah,
that. On Friday nights, you watch TGIF, right? You were watching Boy Meets World. You were watching Family Matters.
What happened to reliability? The newsman, the Paperboy, evening TV.
If I think about that now, like that's what we all did. You went out, played. You came in. You ordered some Dominoes, and you sat around the TV and you had some popcorn and watch TGIF. And on during the summer, I was out the door at 8:00 in the morning, and I was gone until dinner time because I was like literally playing hockey and doing all these things. I never was home.
And you lived on hose water.
Yeah, what?
I lived on hose water.
Yeah. What happened to kids just like doing stupid stuff outside? What happened to that?
They do. You know what kids do now? They just yell at cars that go by them. That's what they do. That's what we get all the time. They're just kids that stand on the corner and will yell at the car. Like, okay, if I get out, you know how much trouble you're going to be? No.
Oh, okay.
Like they're talking smack to the car. It's like, boy, you don't want me to get out of this thing, do you?
And again, I don't know, because my kids, they go outside. They like to go outside. They like to go swimming. They like to do all those things.
Your kids are hooligans. Cause trouble at Target.
I know, right? But if I look back at me growing up and comparing it to today, I didn't have one of these. We didn't have this. Now, Nathan, you had a phone way before we ever would have had a phone, right? So it's like my first cell phone I got when I was 19 years old. Okay, I had a pager. I had
17 or 18.
You had a pager,
yeah, but Nathan, it wasn't because like there were phones around to have. It was like legit. You went from never ever seeing a cell phone to there they are all of a sudden. Like you've been around cell phones your entire life, even though you didn't have one. There's significant difference in that. Okay. It's just like we used to have VHS tapes, and then VHS went to DVDs, and then somewhere along the lines in like 1999, we started seeing red boxes, and then the Netflix came out with this thing where they would deliver DVDs to your house, and then now we have Netflix today. We in the last like 25 years have made significant changes to how we do everything. It used to be just you'd see like, okay, a new computer model. VHS tape goes to DVD, right? I mean, we saw the music industry change overnight. We saw the video industry, movie industry change overnight. I mean, it's we're watching TV shows. They release them all one season in the same day. I mean, you used to have to wait 26 episodes. You'd have to wait. It's like it's the whole world has changed in that regard, and so that has really led to what has happened with our kids, which is they want everything now. They don't want to wait for it. There's no patience anymore, and more importantly, they found a way to not have to do anything. Right? Because why would you? And to be fair, the educational aspect of our system has changed too, because it used to be about retaining it. Right? You need to boom, boom, boom. We're going to retain. Now it's not so much about retaining. It's about understanding where to find it and then make sure you're putting the right answer where it's supposed to go. It's not about retaining anymore because you have access to, we used to go encyclopedias for book reports. We used to go into these books.
Grocery store, baby.
Yeah, we used to go
if
into
you
these
missed
things.
that day at the grocery store and you forgot volume J, you were screwed when James Madison came to work.
Yeah, so it's like we had to do all these things. Now it's like you all have access to these phones and you have access to these computers that can just do things in seconds. And so that's changed everything. And when you look at it from the standpoint of a coach, an athlete today, they are far more intelligent than they were 30 years ago. And that might not be intelligent in the same sense that maybe you think about book smarts and things like that. But the student today is way more intelligent than the student 30 years ago. And I do believe that because again, I coach them. I coach those kids.
Oh,
I'm telling you right
I
now.
thought you meant like overall.
I don't know if they're smarter, right? But I think that when I say like smarter, when I say that they're a smarter kid, they have more access to information. They know more generally than they did 30 years ago because there's all this stuff, and a lot of that might be related to cultural things, or like I wouldn't say politically. I don't think our kids are any smarter politically, but I do think
we're not smarter politically.
Huh?
We're not smarter politically. Politicians aren't smarter politically.
I remember the kid today, especially the athlete who is playing at a high school level. You know, they are a lot of them are on, National Honor Society, taking AP courses. I mean, if you look at these varsity level players across the state of Michigan, across the country, a vast majority of them, when it comes to the intelligence in the classroom and smarts, I would argue that between 60 and 70% of them are in that top echelon of their grade point average and scholastic, whatever you want to call it. I think that's where they are. And I don't remember that growing up. I don't remember that level of like, and I'm not saying it's for every school, but again, if I look at the vast majority of what I've come in contact with these kids, they are all, a vast majority of them are like way above the curve.
I would agree with you on that. But as far as I think that goes to the resources part as well, is that I think it was more like when I got the honor roll for the first time, I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. It was like, and that it was rewarded. It was recognized. Now, because there are so many avenues to find information and different means of getting it. And I mean, God, look at AI. You just say, type me a story about so-and-so, and it writes it for you. And that's the intelligence that a lot of these, taking Chat GBT and referencing that and then changing it into your paper. Kids don't even write anymore. But I think the achievements and the accomplishments meant a lot more when we were younger than they do now, because it's almost like everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets a participation trophy. Everybody's going to get orange slices at the end of the game or whatever. And I think that has changed tremendously in our society too, is that the recognition for doing well and working your tail off to do it it's like common now for an AP honor student or a merit National Honor Society student. Like that's a common thing. Whereas before it wasn't. Those were like the upper echelon students. And you think about doctors and physicians and engineers and all this kind of stuff. It's because the technology is so, they're not learning this trait, the skill, they're learning the technology. Like there's engineers that can't build a Lego set, but they could draw one up on a screen, but they couldn't put it together. That's really weird to me.
What I think has taken the biggest step back is language. I think we, in a lot of ways, the fundamental ability to communicate, even at a very baseline level, has in many ways gone away. And I think that's the scariest part. I think we talk about, going outside and playing with your friends all day. I think we've gotten into an era, not to say they don't have friends and that they can't relate to people. And it's different. I mean, obviously language changes as you evolve. There are terminologies that I just don't understand. There are ways that a lot of kids communicate to each other that just doesn't sound like English sometimes. But I think that is something that has fundamentally changed the language component of our society, because there's not as much of a need to rely on good communication to get to where you want to go because of the technology we do have. And so I know that that's kind of a deep cut. Maybe it's taken away a little bit from the sports conversation, but that to me is probably the most problematic trend that we see. And I see this all the time. I mean, it's just something as simple as just saying hello. I think there's a lot of kids that just lack that ability. Everything seems transactional. Everything seems instantaneous. There is no marinating. There is no feel, which is why, someone who's at least in our job field where we are broadcasting, we are using our voices to move ourselves forward. I think we see that more and more often. That part to me is really a concern. The fact that I think language has taken a bit of a step back.
Yeah, I also think that our level of tolerance has taken a step back as well. And and there's a real thing to be said about tolerance, intolerance, whatever it might be, and that goes on both sides of the coin. That goes from an administrative standpoint, that goes from a parent standpoint, that goes from a player standpoint. It goes from all different levels, right? I mean, if I think about that for a second, I want to play this video because this happened this past week, and you think about this and say, why would we do this? And again, I don't know if you guys have heard this story. I want to lead into this video, and you guys tell me if the so we'll just go ahead and play this. I'm going to push down the screen here. You probably have heard this story. Maybe you haven't. Okay. This young lady, she wins a state title, and in her celebration grabs a fire extinguisher and sprays her cleats. Okay. So she wins the 400-meter state championship as a sophomore, by the way. So that obviously that means something. She's really good. Okay. To win as a sophomore, you're and then you lose the state title because you decided to pull a fire extinguisher and spray your cleats because you're super fast and they're hot. Now, who here thinks that to lose your state title over that nonsense makes sense? Anybody? I'm curious. I'm just curious your thoughts. John, Nate?
I have my thoughts on it, but
I think it's unnecessary. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's listen.
What, you think that the actual act of the fire extinguisher is ridiculous, or the fact that she lost her state title is ridiculous?
I think the extinguisher part is ridiculous. I got scolded once because I hit a shot in basketball that won a game, and I turned and I stared down the bench, the other team after I had done it, and I was scolded and told, "Hey, like, you ain't getting paid for this." You know what I mean? Like, once you start getting money in your pockets, then yeah, you can start doing stuff like that. You can start showboating, you can start puffing your chest out, you can start doing stuff like that. If you're not getting paid, if you're not a pro, then no. Then you can celebrate. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But
I don't want to cut you off here, but to be fair, again, I don't know. High school different. We live in a world today where every single athlete in the world is doing something of this sort all the time. Professional, amateurs, collegiate players, they're all doing this, and it's on ESPN. So I completely understand your perspective, but even Greg Campy was like, the non-negotiables are still the non-negotiables, but I can't go tell my athlete that they can't wear the purple shoe because Kobe Bryant is wearing the purple shoe, and that's who they look up to. He goes, so I can go out and tell the whole world to not do this, but they're not going to come play for me, and it's going to be a pain in my ass. So what I just do is say, well, you still have to show up to practice on time. You still have to listen to these things, and these things here. Those are the non-negotiables. But you being you and your personality, I can't stop that because look at the world we live in. So again, I understand there's rules. I understand there's those things. But you're telling, again, I'm asking this question. Should a sophomore high school athlete lose their state title because after they won the 400-meter and won a state title, they got excited and they didn't hurt anybody. They just sprayed their shoe with a fire extinguisher. Is that right? Is that something we should, as a administrative aspect, go, you know what? Yeah, she should lose her state title.
Natalie, go ahead.
What state was this in?
I don't know. Do celebration. It's a great question. I don't know. Claire Sears doesn't say here. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Kansas. Maybe Missouri.
I mean, whatever board just made that decision, I hate to say it, but I'm sitting on that board. Like, does she get to keep it? Thumbs up or thumbs down, Mr. Natali?
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
For one, that was pre-planned. Where on earth on a track and field, where is there a fire extinguisher?
I don't know. But whether it's pre-planned or not,
where'd she get it from? Two, guess what? The purpose of a fire extinguisher is not to celebrate and blow off your shoes. That's not the purpose of it. That's a safety.
Yes, but that is that's an Olympic qualifier that you're showing us right now.
Yeah. I know.
That's an Olympic qualifier. That is a professional athlete. Who gets
well,
paid.
I mean, technically, I think they were considered amateur athletes to be in the Olympics, but I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he's trying to qualify for the Olympics. So,
but you know what? Lesson learned. What she can say, what she can take from this, she still won it. They can award it to somebody else, but when you say hindsight and at the end of the day, doesn't matter. She knew she won. She got stripped of a piece of material possession, but she knows she won. She can show anybody that tape and that reel to say that, they took it away from me because of this. Well, yeah, but you still won. But now you know that you shouldn't have done that. And in 10th grade, guess you still got to. And this is one of those things where you get mad because now her doing that, instead of celebrating in a right way and with her teammates and all of her teammates just huddling up and jumping up and down, now she's targeted. Now she's targeted by everybody that's mad at that celebration, praying to God that the next time she steps on a 100-meter track, that she gets smoked by somebody else. And if she does, she'll never hear the end of it. Because in 10th grade, you blew off your shoes with a fire extinguisher. Now you're a junior. I'm a senior. I learned you. I worked harder than you. I got faster than you, and I just beat you. And now I'm just going to stare you down. Hence, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese at LSU. Remember that? When Angel Reese did that, now look at them. Caitlin Clark doesn't say a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, she might be the fastest in the whole group. I mean, if Dad is trying to qualify for the Olympics,
10th grade, that's the thing. In 10th grade,
yeah.
But now that she's done that, now she would have not gotten the recognition at all. No one would give a rat's patoot around any part of the country. You're in Michigan, I'm in Indiana. I did not know about this. I didn't see it, but now I see it, and it's because of something she did that made it controversial. Not because of the achievement, because of the controversy behind it.
Yeah.
We would be talking about this if this random person, a 10th grader, won a state title in track, if she just did it. Because guess what? Today in Indianapolis, I start doing the Indiana's track and field finals over at North Central High School. I guarantee you guys won't hear about who wins 100 meters unless I say, hey, if you win, blow out your shoes with a fire extinguisher. Then you'll get recognition. She's become a target now because of that.
You make it about yourself in that moment.
Yes.
But again, this is an individual race. So again, I devil advocate here. It's an individual race. So it is about her. It wasn't like her team helped her. She did that.
but at the same token, it's the school. It's a representation of the school.
Sure.
No matter what, any way you look at it, it wasn't Jane Doe.
But in the whole scheme of things, what harm did she do? What harm?
That's fair.
To herself.
What harm did she do?
Fair. And I'll be the first to admit it was harsh. It was a harsh punishment. It was a very harsh punishment.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I condone this. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you should go off and do this. But I'm saying this is, again, I have no idea the background. This could have been she as a member of the track team, and like in swimming, your team might not make it there, but you do. So it very well, she could have been the only one from her school there by herself doing this. Again, don't know the full backstory, so let's look into that. But again, this is an individual race. So she goes out there and she wins the 400-meter state championship. That is you are the best runner of track in the state of whatever. And to be fair, no fire extinguisher. She still has a target on her back next season because everyone wants to beat her. So the outcome of her doing whatever she did doesn't change the target.
I'm not saying that you missed my point there. I'm not saying that everybody wants to beat her, because that's the goal of every athlete.
Sure.
You want to trump somebody in a sport that you are. You might be good, but if someone beats you, you want to do everything you can to get them back. I'm saying the people that are going after her on social media, and the people that are going after her in different parts of different avenues of however they think they can send a message to this young lady to say that was wrong. That was Bush League. That was whatever you want to call it in the celebration, whatever. That's what she's going to have to endure. That's what she's going to have to go through until it dies down.
But what makes it wrong is the question. And that's I wanted to have that debate. What makes this wrong?
What I'm saying is that you talk about society today, and that's going to happen to her. Until people get tired of it, until they let it go, until that happens, it could be a month, it could be 2, could be 3, it could be a long time to come. She may run her first race next year, and the news media and everybody else might say, hey, we need to go see her and see what she does. So they may resurrect it. And that's tough. We talk about the mental states of our youth. Don't you think that would be tough every day for the next 3-4 months, that you're going to get hounded on social media? She's on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all those different social media platforms.
News.
Yeah. And she may have to shut down her account because she'll get so much hate from people that don't like that stuff.
Well, yeah.
And puts a lot of pressure on a 10th grader.
I don't. If I'm looking at it from the pure simple fact of the high school athletic environment, right? And I use the word tolerance versus intolerance, right? Our tolerance, our patience, right? We put our foot down. Okay. All right. Okay. This young lady decided in the moment, regardless of whether it's pre-planned or not, which we could argue. I don't know the background of this. There could have been a fire extinguisher somewhere in there. I have no idea.
Looked like Dad brought the fire extinguisher to the stadium.
And then like 5 seconds later, be like, fire extinguisher.
We can go off of the assumption that it was pre-planned. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Pre-planned or not. Okay. If she didn't run out and start spraying a bunch of kids, she sprayed her cleats. She did this to herself in an isolated scenario, and obviously it started a whole thing. And so in the whole scheme of things, is the punishment worth the crime? And we talk about that. And I think that's an important thing to have a discussion about, because just like in this scenario here, I was putting on the screen here a moment ago, okay? And I understand taunting and unsportsmanlike, what all that kind of stuff, but looking at this play, right? Look at this moment, this pitcher in Florida. Florida pitcher, he throws a strikeout. He gets, like he's all pumped up, and he gets tossed. He gets tossed for this. Now, again, I don't necessarily understand all the baseball rules, but my guess is that you can't taunt another player. And this is probably considered taunting. But it seems like he was just really excited. He just struck this guy out and ended the inning. Again, no context to the inning. I'm just assuming that's what happened, and he gets tossed out. We've seen batters now in the major leagues they're tapping their helmet. Granted, we know that that's also a thing. They're getting their helmet tapped. They're getting tossed out. I mean, professionals. There are things that are happening that seem to be kind of like, what the hell are we doing? Like, why? This is why no one wants to watch baseball, because an umpire is throwing a guy out for tapping his helmet.
but that just comes along with the territory of going back to what you said, that we all have these now. It's everywhere. We were doing stuff. I mean, we were taunting. We were doing all that stuff when we were growing up. We had our moments. We probably learned from it. There were kids that consistently did it, that got yelled at or didn't get yelled at, but it wasn't under a microscope every single day. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody's got their camera out. Everybody has a social media feed to post it on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, to see all this stuff. I guarantee 10 years ago, nobody sees that Florida pitcher do that, because that's college. Do you know how often that happens? That's almost look at softball. Softball, they chant the entire time. And sometimes those chants, you're like, whoa, wait a second here. Family-friendly environment, my foot. But it's because everything is under a microscope. So we're going to see that. And then we chime in on it because that's all we see. We don't see, we'll see the SportsCenter top 10. That's a great moment because you're seeing 10 great plays back to back to back to back. but you're filled with controversy, and this person did that, and that person. We're programmed to look for the negative of it. That's why I'll go back to my saying, firefighter saves cat from tree. That's never on the front page of the news, ever.
No, it's not. But again,
we don't give a shit about that stuff.
We're if we talk about the moment that I was discussing and the tolerance and the lack of tolerance, right? We talk about or intolerance. If we look at that and say, okay, what is there? I used to poke the bear. I used to go on social media. My wife would be like, John, why are you doing that?
What's this used to?
Well, I used to go on social media, and I would literally, if I saw a political post, I'd hop in and just for the shits and giggles of it, even though if I might agree with the person, just say, yeah, but really, or whatever, and they would create a whole shit show. And I'm always like, why are you doing that? I have nothing else going on right now.
He loves chaos.
So maybe that's why I did it. But I'd poke the bear. How much of this is necessary? I mean, how much of it is necessary? Are we fighting battles that don't need to be fought? Like my wife would always say, John, pick your battle. Pick your battle. Is this a battle we should be picking? Are we making mountains out of molehills? Are we really? I mean, let's be honest here. In the whole scheme of things, in the whole big picture, this girl just wins a state championship, and we take it away from her because we don't like how she celebrated.
Because
I will say, Turner, I will say this. I do think it's a little ridiculous that they took it away. Do I like the optics of what she did? No. Also, I don't think that was just a random spur of the moment. I think that fire extinguisher was definitely brought into the facility. Now, who the hell allowed that to happen?
I don't know how they let her in. I mean, yeah.
How you're just carrying one in the stands? Like, what in the hell? What are we doing here? So for the high school. Yeah, so for us to take the state championship away, it's like maybe the high school should like look in the mirror and be like, why is one of our parents holding a fire extinguisher in the stands? First of all, it's very dangerous. All right, just having that thing alone. So if there's a conversation there, and maybe that played into it. You know what I mean? Like you did something illegal, and maybe that's why this whole thing is going on.
Yeah,
because it was pre-planned. It wasn't. That wasn't a spur of the moment thing. That was definitely pre-planned. So maybe there is some level of that.
Because I'm gonna look at fire hydrant laws or fire extinguisher laws. I'm seriously gonna do this.
I don't think you're allowed to just carry one around. Maybe I'm wrong.
I want to find out what state this is in, and I'm gonna go through the state legislator, and I'm gonna research to see if this is legal or not. Because if it's not,
a track star in Kansas is arrested for illegal handling of a fire extinguisher.
Then the board made the right decision if it's not legal. So I'm gonna dive deep into this. JT, can you send me the link for that video?
Yeah. So to put things in
perspective,
do it
for episode 101.
To put things in perspective, last week we talked about this, and this is why, again, our level of tolerance, right? Last week we talked about how there is this. I got this text message from a mother, or Instagram message from a mother up here, upper Michigan, about players that were at a party. I don't know if I talked about the actual circumstances behind it, but there were players at a party over the weekend drinking, and a bunch of them got MIPs, minor in possessions. And she was pissed off because the school was not notified of this. And these kids played in the game against her team, and they got smoked like 5-1 or something like that. I haven't joked around like, wow, man. I mean, I remember watching Varsity Blues and all the kids that were hung over. They lost that football game in that game, but these ones went out and won 5-0.
Your laugh.
It's like, so I was like, wow, that's, so we should be applauding that. You still got your butt kicked and they were hung over. I go, that maybe, but anyways, impressive, But the school ended up finding out after the fact, and those kids were then suspended for the district final, and the team still won. So it just goes to show you that even with the team's players being suspended, they still won. But the school district wasn't made aware of it. If I look at what happened here just this past Monday, where a player from Detroit, Farmington Hills Mercy here in Michigan, which had a terrible regular season. They beat a powerhouse in Birmingham, Marion, who's had 9 state championships over the last 20 years in soccer. Beat them 3-0 in district final. Their goalkeeper, who was one of the best goalkeepers in the state of Michigan, had like 7 saves, and they said they were like 7 world-class saves. And they beat this team. Well, that same young lady had played in an exhibition game for Flint City a week and a half ago. And you can't do that in high school. You can't go play for another team in Michigan. And so when you do that, you have to self-report and you have to sit out for 3 games. And she didn't do that. So this whole shitstorm started with coaches saying, well, that game should be vacated. We should move on and whatever. She got suspended, so she cannot play a single playoff game until the state finals if her team got all the way there. So she lost out on that opportunity because of this whole thing. And it just, again, it comes back to consequences. It comes back to, is the juice worth the squeeze? In soccer, laws have changed. It used to be in a situation where if you were taken down inside the penalty box and it was a goal-scoring opportunity, the referee would award a penalty shot and give a player a red card. That was the law. It used to be that way. Now, in a dogzo scenario, if the player is attempting to play the ball and the player goes down into the box and you're calling a penalty shot, you give the player a yellow card now. Why? Because they said you were double punishing them. You're giving them a penalty shot and you're taking away a player. So they changed the law. And now if it happens outside the box, you get a red card. But they've changed the law because they didn't want to penalize the team twice. And so here, what is the appropriate response to this situation? And obviously, Nathan, I know you kind of agree with me on this. Like, hey, I mean, you shouldn't have done this. And I don't disagree with you. This girl, she shouldn't have done this. But in the moment, she did her thing. And should she lose a state championship over it? The answer is no. You should not be losing a state title over this. Now, is there other punishments? Absolutely, there's other punishments. Yeah. I don't know what those punishments are. Okay. But absolutely, you should not be punishing this player and taking away a state championship. There are other things you can do. And this is just a power play at the administrative level because that's who we are. No different than the MHSAA, which we do great work with, but they're the same way. They will put their foot down, they will take you to court, and they will stop everything from happening and allowing players to not be able to play. And I'll give you a great example of this. We have players all across this country whose mom and dads no longer are getting divorced. It's not their fault. They're getting divorced. And what ends up happening when parents get divorced? They have to move. Right? They move into new neighborhoods. They separate. They go into different places. And what does that mean? That means if you're playing for school A and now you move to school district over here, you got to go to school B. And if you are a junior and you do it before a certain period of time or after a certain period of time, you can't play your senior season. Now, is that a punishment that makes sense? You're punishing a player because parents got divorced. I'm sorry. That is the fucking dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. But yet that happens all across this country. There are players who get screwed because of some administrative rule that makes no fucking sense. Mm-hmm. And this is my thing. It's like we have a bunch of people sitting in a room who are like, nope. And who's it hurting? It hurts the student athlete.
There's this line, the individual expression, the let them play side. We have this clash, this generational clash that I'm saying that number one, I think we need to relax. Because I remember after our walk-off slam that we had in West Michigan, the way the kid rounded the bases, he threw his helmet and threw his elbow guard and then came home and he was freaking out and stuff. And Facebook is just such a sewage pit. I mean, like looks like act like you've been there before doesn't exist anymore. Shut the hell up. All of you, shut the hell up. First of all, first in franchise history, so no one's been there before. Okay, so let's put that on the table. Number one. Also, number two. To your point, JT, did he hurt anybody? Did he mock anybody? Did he do anything? No, he's freaking out. He's celebrating because this kid's gone through 2 years of being literally the butt end of very bad baseball teams because he came from the high school ranks and he hasn't adjusted to pro ball well. This year's been a little bit different, and that moment really kind of symbolized his growth and development. So I think there's that aspect of it too. But then, again, playing devil's advocate, going to the other side, to what extent is it too much? To what extent are we allowing these younger... Now, he's getting paid. He's a minor leaguer, right? So there's a little bit of a difference there. And I do think there is something important there. If you're getting paid to do it, if someone is actually physically paying you to go out and play a sport, I guess you're allowed to be a little bit more, blasé in that way. But when you're talking about,
no, I just found something. So continue, Nate.
No. I'll wrap it up. But when you're
the law,
when you're talking about young kids, and we want to teach them I think the values of team and not making yourself above everybody. I think those things still matter. I think they still matter. So I think we can't completely go away from that, but there's a balance here. There is a balance here.
So JT and Nathan Wengler,
the law.
I ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you break the law, does that still fall into the category?
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, yeah.
Well, I don't think they agree with that. Do you agree with that? If just by chance this young lady broke the law with that celebration, does the punishment fit the crime?
First things first. We live in a country where you
have
to be convicted of a crime, right? So I think that's the first one. So, but it's not just be accused of one.
Okay.
Be convicted.
So if doing that, which you can clearly see, misusing a fire extinguisher, if that was against the law in the state of California, which this happened,
not guilty. Go ahead.
There should be a punishment. Yes, I agree.
So, California Penal Code 148.4 PC. Yes, you can be arrested for misuse of a fire extinguisher in California. Specifically, it's a crime to tamper with or damage fire protection equipment, including fire extinguishers, including falsely pulling a fire alarm or making a false report of a fire and or misuse of a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
What's the crime? Is it a misdemeanor? What does it say?
Let's see. It is.
Is it a civil infraction? What is an actual? What's the fines? In California, it's probably like $10 million.
Misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor. It can include fines and jail time.
I mean, if at that moment, I mean, this will happen in the moment, from my understanding, when they stripped her of it. She didn't even get on get to walk on the blocks. So my guess is that they didn't necessarily know this was a crime. They just did it, So I would have to argue that they didn't know it was a crime at the time they did this. So
this examples of misuse of a fire extinguisher. This could include
track. Damn.
This could include intentionally defacing a fire extinguisher, which she did not deface it, tampering with its mechanism, or discharging it without a real fire. But my shoes were on fire.
Well, I would argue that her shoes might have been hot. That might have been a thing. That could be an argument. But I would be arguing that if I were her lawyer, I'd be like, Your Honor, they're on fire. You see her run down the track?
Tracks are hot, man.
Them off with the fire extinguisher. Look at them. So there you go. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Granted, if you knew or not, all right. If I went somewhere and I did something that was completely wrong, but I didn't know if it was going to be a crime or not, but there's a law saying that you cannot do this, and I did it unintentionally. Do you think that the judges or anybody's going to be like, well, okay, you didn't know, but we'll let it go this time?
I don't think
a lot. Let's say it happens a lot. For as much as we can talk about the things that we go overboard and we're protecting these laws and enforcing everything on that, think about how much stuff does not get enforced. So you can balance that scale either way. But in this instance, she broke a law, and that could have played into that, because that had to be something where there was someone on that site that knew that.
I don't know. I would argue
there's a fire marshal there.
Where?
At the track, there's a fire marshal in that vicinity. There has to be a fire marshal
at a state championship. A fire marshal
with that many people. Yeah, there's someone on. There's someone on site that's either a security. There's someone of a law enforcement, where the fire department and or a police officer, anything. Someone in that vicinity knew that law. Because if she wasn't able to walk up for that, that means it was addressed to her prior to. It wasn't, hey, I really don't think that that was a poor celebration. That was poor sportsmanship. You're not getting your title for that.
Well,
I guarantee they said to her.
What they said. It's absolutely what they said. They applied taunting or unsportsmanlike. This was not. They said nothing to do with the law. This was.
Well, then she got off easy. Then she got off. If to look at it
again, I don't know of a prosecutor on earth that's going to prosecute that. But I mean, again, that I'm
just saying it's a law. It's a law. We can say we can foreshadow anything of whether they would or whether they not. But she broke a law. She broke a law. That's all I can say. If I try as much as I can to make sure I don't break the law, whether it's feeble or not, I try not to do it.
Yeah, no, I get it. And again, I don't know.
We break the law every day. Does anybody here drive under the speed limit?
Well, actually, I think driving under the speed limit actually is technically breaking the law too. But
it's not. Yeah. It's not, because the speed limit is a certain number. If you go like underneath a certain number, yes. But the speed limit
the law every day.
Every day. Why? Because we have we have that 5 to 9 mile per hour buffer zone.
Cushion.
Yes. But we're breaking it every single day.
Yeah. I think, I don't disagree with you, John. I don't disagree with you. And again, there are laws that are on the books.
It's not disagreeing with me. It's disagreeing with the state of California.
There are laws every day. Like, you can't chew gum while walking down the street in Podunk, wherever. That's still a law somewhere on the books. I mean, there's some dumb laws that just don't make sense. But again, that law is designed to protect people from walking into a building and taking a thing off the wall and start spraying people. That's what that law was designed for. It wasn't designed for the athlete who takes one from their house and spray it and they're on their cleats. That's not what it was designed for. But I understand the perspective of it. And again, there is a punishment that should be here. The question was, do we have are we too intolerant now? Are we taking it too far?
Law. It's that's what I'm saying. It's a state law. But it wasn't a school
John,
law.
I'm telling you this right now. They did not take this away from her because there was a law that was broken. They did not do that. This did not happen because of that. I understand there's a law there, but they didn't do that.
Law.
Huh?
It's a state law.
Well, it might be a state law that nobody knows about. And I can tell you right now, no administrator at this high school, whatever.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because it was reported it was unsportsmanlike behavior. It wasn't because they broke a law. It's been reported that this was unsportsmanlike, taunting, whatever you want to call it. This was a bunch of administrators going, we don't like what you just did. And they took away your state title. Had nothing to do with breaking the law.
But here's where we've come diluted as society. I just gave you a pure fact from the California State Penal Code law that said this is a illegal act.
Sure.
You cannot do this.
Sure. I agree.
And you're arguing about it's not that's why they took it away. It's because of that. I'm giving you the fact.
But we live in America, John.
Saying, put the law aside. Should she? It doesn't matter. She broke the law.
We live in America. We don't live in somewhere.
I'm going to call the news station. I'm going to say, here's what she did.
No, I'm saying we live in America, and where yes, while I agree that there might have been a law broken there, because again, the law broken, fair, okay. But in this country, you have a right to go due process. You go in front of a judge, and there's not a single judge on earth that would put this girl and convict her of a crime. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So all I'm saying is that if ultimately she broke a law, then again, the state has a right to say, you know what, your state title can be taken away for you breaking the law after the fact. You let her walk up there, you let her do her thing, and then after the fact, you take it away from her as you would do in any environment, in any scenario. Remember, Lance Armstrong walked up on the podium. We all knew he was cheating, but we had no proof of it. Took about 5 years, and after he did, everything came away, right? So there's a process. There's a process, you know.
I think there is gray area in this. There is gray area. We need to admit that there is gray area in this because she didn't hurt anybody. She didn't cause harm. She didn't spray people down. She didn't do any of that stuff. But at the same exact time, yeah. I mean, is it crappy sportsmanship? Yes, absolutely. And I do think there is something to be said about that. I really do, guys.
Yeah,
I do think there is something. And when people are like, well, it's, woe is me. Like, well, I didn't do anything. Like that's so many people want to play the victim card in 2010. So playing the victim card is the new fashionable fun thing in society now. And that's what bothers the hell out of me. You feel like you can push the boundaries with things, and then when people react in a way, you're like, oh, well, I'm just a victim of something heinous. It's like, no, you went out of your way to do something that was ridiculous, and now you're getting punished for it. But at the same exact time to go, well, we're going to give the state championship now to the person that you just blew out of the water because we didn't like the way that you celebrated, is also ridiculous. There has to be a gray area here, guys. But
do
I think it's right that they took it away? No, I really don't. But yeah, there is some gray area here.
So let me ask you this, Nate: what do you think is more degrading? The fact that she got the state title taken away from her because she did a silly celebration, and or the second place person who got ripped now got a tainted state title? What do you think would be more deflating?
I mean, I'd say both are probably pretty deflating.
Yeah, no, I know that.
I'd feel imposter syndrome if I got.
Saying. So, as an athlete, either of you, if you were in second place and you're like, "Damn, I didn't win," and 5 minutes later, like, "Hey, congratulations, you won," because she is disqualified, would you be happy, or would you be like,
no.
I guess, thanks? I mean, how would you look at? How would you view that?
Confused. Yeah. Nice. Da, 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 da.
See, for JT, that would never happen because you would never be in second. You're like a fourth, fifth place guy.
Oh no, I wouldn't even be in it. I wouldn't even be there.
I would have tripped out of the gate. But seriously, I mean, how would you accept that as the other athlete? Would you, as that first place athlete, which clearly she's devastated, and it's a rough thing. I will admit that doing that, if that's what it was because of unsportsmanlike or taunting or whatever, I will say that's harsh. But then I find the fact of what she did is illegal. So to me, that puts something back on the school, the event center, whatever it was, that's a legal piece of equipment that you cannot tamper. It's like running into an airport and saying bomb. She was using a fire extinguisher.
Bomb, 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 bomb. Remember that? Meet the Parents?
Yes. But in turn, though, to be that second place athlete, you're packing up your shoes, you're getting ready to go, and you're thinking about, man, I gotta get ready for next year and all this kind of stuff. And then they run up to you and say, wait, whoa. You're actually first place now. Kind of. How do you react?
Yeah, I'd say I'm probably not happy about it. Either that or just confusion, like mass confusion. It says you're right. Like you're not deserving of it, and that's why I say like there is gray area here. Like you did not win the race. Like fundamentally, you did not win the race, so therefore you're not deserving of it. But oh boy.
Sorry, I'll turn the volume on. Hang on. Sorry, you can't say bomb. Sorry. So, John, I 100% agree with you. I agree with you 100%. All right, so I do. I agree if she broke the law and there's a law in the books, by all means. But again, if I look at that moment for what it is, okay, for the moment for what it is, we as administrators, leadership, whatever you want to call it, we come from this position that, well, because we can, we will. Right? And that's what it is. What she showed us up, so we're gonna show her. We're gonna take away her state title. And instead of that whole thing playing out and allowing the process to take place behind the scenes where they could do things and still punish her in a very non-public way, they opted to go this route. And that's the problem that I have, not the problem that they're punishing her. If they decided after a quorum, after a board of directors meeting and saying, hey, you know what you did was wrong, and investigated this thing and really understood what happened and then pulled it from her, absolutely fine. I'm okay. As why I don't necessarily agree with it. At least they took this step that people could say, because again, if in today's world, if you're in the soccer environment and you go off and you assault a parent or a player or something during a game, you know what happens? There's a meeting that takes place between a bunch of disciplinary board members, and they vote on whether or not you should still be playing this game or not. Right. So again, don't know if that happened or not. My guess is no, because it all happened very quickly. Again, because it's like you showed us. Remember the NFL used to be like, well, you grab a pen and we're gonna fine you. And now what have they done? They've completely turned the tide, and now the entire team can create a whole choreographed thing that now takes place in end zones and in interception. You have a whole team doing something together. So it's like now we've gone the complete opposite direction in the NFL. And why? Because they realized that it was a dumb thing for them to take that away from teams, and it made it more fun. And it has actually made, I think, celebrations more fun in the NFL. So again, I know they're getting paid for it and all that kind of good stuff. I get it. But I don't know if the punishment fits the crime, and again, if everyone in that state says yes, it does, then okay, then so be it. I don't buy it. I think it was a power move, a power grab, whatever you want to call it. It's an administration who governs a track and field environment, and they're like, ha, you did that to us, we're going to do this right back to you, and we're going to win because we can. And they win every battle because they are the administrative body of sports in California, and they have every power that they can throw that power however they want to. Period. I see it here in Michigan all the time. Because again, the athlete who mom and dad got divorced can't play high school soccer because their parents got divorced. That's her fault. That's screwed up, man. It's screwed up. And so I just, and if you broke the law, by all means, that should be something that should be dealt with. It should be something that should be, and again, I'm not sure how you deal with that. And I think that there's not a lot of prosecutors that would take on that case, but if they did take on that case, it would probably be more because of the fact that it was more of a political thing and the environment, right? Because I mean, so again, I struggle with that. And I don't want that kind of stuff to happen to athletes because they get excited. You just won your state championship. I mean, shit. I mean, some people deal with it differently, I mean,
well, look at Reggie Bush. Look at Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
Lost a Heisman.
You did.
Because he broke
5 years later, though.
But it took how long? When did he win that thing?
What 2000 and I don't know, 2006.
It was a long time ago.
Something like that. I don't know when it was. It was a long time, and yeah, they investigated it, realized what happened, took it away.
But then they gave it back to him.
Well, yeah.
19 years later.
But again,
I think there's something different when it comes to accepting thousands of dollars of donor money versus using a fire extinguisher.
But no, this is where I disagree with that. Because the skill set, Reggie Bush didn't get bigger and faster and better at football because he was given thousands of dollars. It was for personal gain. Like this young lady, she wasn't doing juice or she wasn't doing anything like that to improve her performance. Mm-hmm. She did something outside. So even though the situation's different, getting thousands of dollars illegally, using a fire extinguisher illegally, it had nothing to do with the performance. I guess that's a good example of this is that when JT brought up Lance Armstrong was doping big time.
As was everybody else was, I understand.
I know that. Yeah. I mean, it's not an uncommon thing. I mean, you look at horse racing, for God, we just had a Kentucky Derby. How many horses get eliminated because they're roided up during the race and then they get disqualified? We've seen it in the past where Kentucky Derby champions or Triple Crown winners get stripped from their prize because they are doped up. We see it in every sport. But this wasn't a performance issue. This was a reckless use of personal judgment that got them in trouble.
Yeah. That's why I feel like snap decisions shouldn't happen. There should be an administrative policy that says we don't do that. We wait. We review, we ask questions, we investigate, then we take things away. We don't do it this way. You don't do it that way. You let her go do her thing, and then afterwards you pull her aside and say, hey, just want to let you know what you did was wrong. We're going to investigate this, and you could lose your title. At least she gets to enjoy her moment like everybody else does.
Yeah, humiliation you didn't really have to go there.
If she does something where she created bodily harm and she's hurting somebody, they're not even having this discussion. And this isn't about feelings, because I know Peter said, like, laws don't matter, feelings do. No, laws matter, but can't both matter?
Due process also matters.
Yeah, but can't both be happen at the same time, where laws matter and feelings matter? Can't they both? I mean, can't they connect and be one? I mean, I feel like, we get in this mindset where for a long time, we've watched some things happen in society where maybe people aren't being punished for things they should get punished for, and we're seeing people being over punished for things they wouldn't normally get punished for just because of our climate that we're currently in. But can't feelings still be intermixed in there? Can emotions still be involved? I feel like what ends up happening is that we are so emotionally charged that we're like, I cannot believe you just did that. And then we go and we do our response. And then there's moments like, oh my God, I can't respond, because if I do, I'm going to get in trouble for responding. So we're at this weird place where either we go all in or we don't go in at all, and so it's finding that balance. And this is a perfect example of going all in when you didn't need to. You didn't need to. You could have.
But no, you're right. But it again, that's that balancing just with everything, that we're so divided. I mean, we're just three people, and we have varying opinions on this.
It's good.
I broke out a fact. Nate didn't like the celebration. You thought the crime didn't fit the punishment didn't fit the crime. So we have just the three of us. We have three varying issues on this. Think about the millions of other people who are going to end up seeing this and what they think about it. Even if on my part, there's going to be the people. She broke the law. She's in trouble. The celebration was garbage, but the punishment was. So where's the median? You can't find one, because someone's going to be unhappy about the outcome regardless.
Yeah.
If she wasn't punished, if she just won it, there would be people there that would say, I cannot believe they gave that to her after that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But at the same time, my thought process has been this way for a long time now, is we need to stop responding as quickly as we do.
No, you're right.
We need to stop going to, we're quick to judge. We're quick to respond. We're quick to punish. We're quick to alienate. We're quick to all these things. We're quick to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. We are all of those things right now in this country. And so all I'm saying in all this is review, right? Everything we do nowadays is about seeing a video that's 30 seconds in length and then coming to a judgment before we ever have any other idea of what happened. Again, we saw a clip here of this whole thing. I have no idea what happened 5 minutes before that and 10 minutes after that. I have that 2-minute video we just saw, and we are all making a determination off of that. We are making determinations on law, on all these things. I am
determination on law. I looked it up. It's right there in writing.
Well, the we is in you're part of the we. But my point though is that in the moment when the administration decided to say, you're not going to win this thing, we're going to take away your state championship. You're not going to be able to go up on that block. That was quick. My thing is take a breath, cooler heads prevail, review the facts, gain understanding, and if after the fact she doesn't deserve it, by all means, take it away. I don't want to. But the problem is we're going, you're guilty, and we're going to take it away from you right now. That's the problem. And again, it's a problem across our country. It's not just a problem in California or in Michigan. It's everywhere. And to be fair, we're all guilty of it all the time. How many times do we watch a video, and the three of us, we watched this video, and all three of us had a different opinion about this video and what we would have done, right? And now we're talking it out, and maybe we're going, maybe I wouldn't do this, or maybe I wouldn't do that. But the initial thought process of that video was, nope, she shouldn't have won this thing. But maybe, or however they did it. But maybe now you're like, yeah, maybe we could have waited a bit. Maybe you are. Maybe your mindset hasn't changed in that regard. But at least the three of us have figured out in this conversation, by talking it through, that the reaction to that whole thing could have been handled better by the administration. And that's all that I'm saying. And I feel like that's where we need to go in this country. Just stop being so quick to make a decision. Just what's going to be the harm? I mean, the second place girl, well, she thought she lost anyway, so her getting up on that podium ain't gonna matter. So, she already thought she was second. And to be fair, she's not going home going, I won. You know what I mean? She's not going home saying she won, regardless of what the state says. And she's probably gonna be like, I don't want this shit. Because if you're an athlete who's actually, cares about like that kind of stuff, you're not like me going, I just won. No, you're like, that's bullshit. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. She won the race, not me. So, but I think this is a great conversation to have because it still ties into the youth environment, right? Because here we have all these young athletes who are seeing all these exciting celebrations on the field. They're seeing their idols and their sports role models out there doing these things, and they want to emulate them in every way possible, shape, and form. And when can they do that? They do that in the form when they go score a goal in a U13 match on a Saturday afternoon, and they want to pull their shirt up and show the predetermined, like the Sharpie written, I love my mom, if I'm Mother's Day. Now they get a yellow card for showing off that thing, right? They all want to do this. I mean, think about all the kids now who are at these young ages who are like mimicking, like, what's it called? Like, not Messi. Shoot, I'm drawing a blank on it for a second, but mimicking, the international stars who are like rolling around on the ground, acting like they got shot and they're like dying, and then 5 seconds later they get back up, they're fine. Right? I mean, that's happening now all across this country. You see players get taken down. They're like, "Oh my God, my knee!" And then and they're waiting looking around for the referee, and then okay, I'm good. I'm back up. I go. They're all seeing this, and they're all acting this way.
But that goes back to the social media thing. It
goes back to this access to media in general.
We've been watching celebrations our whole lives.
Yeah,
of players, and
what did you do in your garage growing up?
Celebration like the bat flip. How many people hate Jose Bautista because of that lone bat flip in the World Series? They hate him because of that. And look at Ja Morant today. He still hasn't learned his lesson. He got suspended, like, what was it, 25 games for the gun celebration, an entire season or something like that. And then he comes back the next year and does it 2 more times.
Yeah, I remember as a kid,
the playing in my garage. Helping us. They're not helping the youth.
I remember as a kid playing in the garage. It was the wintertime. I had a hockey net, I had a hockey stick, and I remember in my garage, shooting the puck, or the roller ball. Like, it wasn't a puck, it was a street hockey ball. And I remember shooting that thing into the goal. And after I would score, I would be imagining how I would celebrate it if it was like the Game 7, overtime Stanley Cup Finals. These kids all have the right to do that. But now, more so than ever, they have a place to do it and on a field after a game. And so they're going to do it because they want to have that autonomy. And we as a society, we as administrators, we of the stewards of the game have to say, well, what is acceptable and what is not, right? And so the books have to be reopened, and they have to go back and look and say, okay, what is the right thing for us to do? Because it ain't going to go away. It's not going to go away. It's only going to continue to get worse. So what do? Do you still put this firm thing down saying that's not acceptable? Or do we say, no, you know what? Let's create some new parameters. Let's create some new things that allow this game to continue to be fun and enjoyable for everybody while maintaining order. And that's my perspective. I'm not saying we need to just accept everything. No, we just need to figure out what is the non-negotiable. You can't bring a fire extinguisher on. Okay, fine, fair enough. Is an air horn okay? What you can't bring anything outside. Okay, what is acceptable? What is the acceptable manner in which you can celebrate after you win a race? And would be where it doesn't cross the line of taunting and unsportsmanlike conduct. Or where is that line? Is it just like, are we just like, okay, just go just like this? That's all you get to do? I mean, because I remember there was a time in a place where Tiger Woods, as a golfer, his excitement after hitting a great shot, right? His fist pumping, all that stuff. In the old school golf days, that was not allowed. You couldn't do that shit. But Tiger Woods changed the way players got excited on a golf course and changed the game of golf in this country. And he did so by being unbelievable at it, but while at the same time using his personality and his excitement, wearing the red golf shirt on Sundays, right? When he was winning, like that whole thing, he changed golf. Jack Nicklaus helped create a great golf environment, but Tiger Woods changed golf in this country. And he did it with his energy, his passion, his enthusiasm, and all the things that all these other things. And also the fact that he loves Subway and taking his girlfriends there. But that's also things that he but I mean, we just need to I just think we need to reevaluate, and not be and figure out those non-negotiables are. And if we do that, then things like what happened this weekend with this young lady or whenever it happened, it would be like, okay, yeah, you crossed the line. But I don't know if she actually crossed a line, because the lines are still the same from 20 years ago. And I mean, and I know the line that you're talking about, and yeah, she did while she broke a law and things like that, but what is the line, and should the line be moved so that we can allow players and athletes to be themselves while also not breaking laws.
She did
rules.
cross the line in second place.
Oh boy. So, but guys, episode 100 is in the books. Holy crap. And we went 21 minutes over. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Another relatable discussion that brought three different views into it. I think that's pretty impressive that when you can actually get three different views out of something. So kudos, boys.
Well, to be at 100 minutes on a show, we would have to be right around one. I'm just saying here, what time is it right now? It's 10:20. Like what around 10:35, 10:39, 10:40? Where would we have to be
for 100 minutes?
Yeah, because 90 minutes is at 9:30. So it'd be
an hour 40.
Maybe 10:40. So we have to go for another 19 minutes to pull this off. Are you guys up for it?
I'm providing. See, you guys are always ones that are running out of here like jackrabbits on a date after the thing. So if you need to go,
I don't need to go.
I'm sure we can whip something up.
Nate, you want to go? You're still good to go?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, I'm here.
All right, so I'm glad we did that, because now I want to ask the Michigan guys. Nate, are you a Sparty fan?
I'm not. No, sir.
You're not? No?
Nope. My Uncle John played at Michigan, playing under Bo.
Okay.
So I no.
I'm going to bring up an example of something, but going on the whole unsportsmanlike conduct thing or just the taunting. And you guys probably remember this because it was in your state, and it happened at Michigan when Penn State came up and played, and that big old lineman from Penn State was defacing the center circle on the football field. I mean, and then you go back to when Oklahoma beat Ohio State, and even Baker Mayfield tried to plant the flag on a turf field, which I thought was funny. But, like things like that and the taunting issues and everything like that. How do you guys just trying to go back to the target on the back? Like after Baker Mayfield did that, he became villainous. After that lineman from Penn State did that, he became villainous. No matter what they did on the field from that point on, people were always going to remember that.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And that's what I said initially. That's what's going to happen to this young lady, is that's what she's going to be remembered for, not getting all the way that far, going through a whole season as a 10th grader, winning a state title in the second biggest state in the United States. She's going to be remembered for a fire extinguisher incident and all of that, and however people interpret that. That's what she's going to be remembered for. And that's tough. That's tough treading for a 16-year-old.
Well, it is. And as a former coach and someone that was a player, you guys, we always had these conversations. Our coaches at least said, hey, we don't want to give their team ammunition, right? That because the ammunition, the psychological ammunition, can be very powerful, right? We know that. You go out and we remember Rasheed Wallace, right? He would do this guaranteed, right? Remember we used to talk about that back in the the early 2000s, right? He'd be like, I guarantee we're going to win. We all call it guaranteed, right? Well, all that did was create ammunition. And while in most cases it might have worked out, in the cases it didn't, you could be like, well, maybe you shouldn't have said that. Rasheed Wallace, you shouldn't have said that. You're going to win a game that you might not win, right? You can't guarantee shit, right? And so if you give these teams this ammunition, they're going to use that against you. And again, there are teams that you can say all these things in the world and it won't mean a whole lot, right? But when it comes to rivalry games, like specifically like the Ohio State Michigan rivalry game, Michigan State, you can look at that entire series, that entire the history of that rivalry, and you can sit there and pick out games where one team was way better than the other. It isn't even close how much better one team is, right? I mean, you could look and say Michigan's been better than Michigan State the last 6 years, right? And vice versa. And you'll see these teams, they'll lose. They'll lose. Well, why do they lose? Is it because they don't have the talent? No. It's because the other team came in that day and was like, screw you, we're gonna beat the shit out of you. We're gonna find a creative way, psychologically, have the edge, and go out there and win. We've seen it time and time again in these environments. And so if you're a team that, like, you know, you want to, I mean, again, and typically it's a team that has the most talent that is the one that loses, right? Right. It's typically the team that has the most talent that loses that game because they thought they could because they were better and they had this chip on their shoulder that doesn't really measure up to the chip on the other team's shoulder who's trying to fight that whole thing. And you know, you lose. Right. And so I also think that teams are new, like the newer generation of rivalry, right? These newer players who are looking at the history of these series are trying to find new ways to make it a bigger and like badder rivalry, right? Trying to just ruffle feathers, right? And how do you do that? Well, you get into fights in the tunnel. You know, you get into fights in the tunnel where people get arrested. You know, you do stupid shit to their mascots. I mean, you just find new ways to just pick on little brother or whatever you want to call it, right? That's what you do. I think they're just trying to find their way. It's no different than the high school seniors. Like, what's the class prank this year going to be, guys? What's our senior prank going to be? We're going to put the teacher's car on the roof. You know, like, you know, I mean, like we're going to do some crazy shit that no one's done before. And hopefully no one gets killed doing it. I think that's what it is. And it's a great part of sports, man. I mean, you know, the days of egging the high school coaches, the rival coach's house, or, I mean, we actually had our high school coach, Tim Storch, someone brought a toilet and put it on his front lawn, and they teepeed his whole house. And then I believe someone actually went to the bathroom in that toilet. I think so. So like, but on his front lawn. And he came to school that day. He goes, "You'll never believe what happened to me last night." And we're like, "What?" And that's the days you didn't have camera phones. She had to just tell us. He's like, "My house was teepeed." We had no proof it ever happened, but here's what he said. Now, he was doing that either one, because it actually happened, or two, he was trying to get us to get, you know, psychologically, you know, pissed off at that those guys for doing what they did to our coach. You know? So yeah, so I think that's interesting. But didn't you go through that as a kid too, guys? I mean, I'm assuming you all are part of rivalries and some of that shit took place where the mascot was taken or the houses were egged or, you know, whatever. I'm assuming we all going through that.
Yeah, it's rivalry stuff. Like those things happen. I don't really read that far into it. I don't think it's a big deal. Personally, I think people overreact to stuff all the time. Frankly, I think it's what makes college athletics fun. I think it's what makes it entertaining, even high school athletics. I think the minute we start losing that stuff is the minute that I think people start tuning out. And I'm even getting to that point now with college athletics. Like, Michigan doesn't play Notre Dame anymore. UCLA and USC, do they play anymore? Like, how many of these old historic rivalries are just no longer because realignment and money and all these other things? Like, they don't happen. I mean, the landscape of what I thought actually made college sports fun and exciting is the storylines and the history, you know, and like people like even look at Michigan and Ohio State, and I don't think there would ever be a situation where they wouldn't play. I don't think that would ever happen. And if there was, there would be riots in the streets. And it's not because of necessarily, well, it's just Michigan and Ohio and we don't like each other. People forget, man, there was a war between Michigan. There was a border war between Michigan and Ohio. And the first iteration of that rivalry included people whose parents were a part of that. Now, there were no shots fired, but there was espionage, there were stabbings, there were people kidnapped. There was stuff that happened between the two sides. The only casualties ever inflicted were on the Ohio side. I would just like to specify this before we continue this conversation. So they actually started it. But there was legitimately a border war, and that's what led to the first iteration of that rivalry. And so everything beyond that, and even you take polls now on anywhere in the United States. What's your least favorite state outside of the one that, you know, whatever? Every time it's Michigan people hate Ohio and Ohio people don't like Michigan. Every time. Doesn't matter what poll, doesn't matter where. So that's what, to me, in a lot of ways makes the game beautiful. Now, you know, post-game brawls with pepper spray and everything else like that. Is that what you want to see? No, not necessarily, but I think it comes with the territory a lot, so I think that's one thing. But in terms of what we were addressing for the majority of the show and the individual, spraying her cleats with the fire extinguisher, it's just too much. You know what I mean? Do you have to humiliate that person? No. Do you have to, in that moment, be like, well, you didn't win it. It's actually this person. No, I don't think that's the way to go about it. But I think there is something to be like, chill out. Chill out. You're
Nate,
sick.
let me ask you a question. Give me, in your head, the top 3 rivalries, any sport. Give me the top 3 rivalries you think in your head.
In college,
there's no right or wrong answer here.
In college?
Anywhere. Any rivalry.
Ooh. Well, so here's the thing. I'm not familiar with the Premier League rivalries.
No, just that's the thing. Just the ones you know.
The ones I know. I'm going to go with, okay, this is going to be wrong because, again, I'm not.
There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer.
I think Michigan-Ohio State's the biggest rivalry in sports.
Okay.
Period.
2. Name number 2.
2, I would go with Auburn, Alabama.
Okay.
And then 3 on that list. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into this. You know what? I think Army Navy is probably up there too.
Okay.
2 military academies.
In your head, top 3 rivalries. Any sport, any league.
In any sport, any league.
Any
top
sport,
3
any league.
Okay. Top 3. I mean, it's too bad because I don't know if the Red Wings Avalanche would still be considered. I was the biggest, that was a big one back when I was growing up. Huge.
Okay.
Right? Let's see here. What else? Let's see here. Soccer wise, football. I would say in football, it would be. I'm just trying to think. Dude, I think isn't New York Giants and Cowboys a pretty big rivalry?
I think the NFC East, everybody playing each other is kind of equal.
Okay, I thought that was a pretty big one though. I always felt that was. Pretty
It is,
big.
But I mean, Eagles, Cowboys, Redskins, Cowboys. I mean, the
NFC
that's
East,
fair. Anybody against the Cowboys.
I mean, it's like crazy, like NBA, baseball. I'm just trying to
Red Sox, Yankees.
Yeah. I'm even trying to again think about locally too, right? Like did the Lions and Bears is a pretty big one locally.
That's big. That's very big.
If you talk about collegiately, I think that there's Michigan, Ohio State is definitely in that top 5. If
Duke,
not
Carolina?
in the top 3. Huh?
Duke, Carolina.
I even forgot about that one. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably in my top 3 too. Top 5.
But I guess my point here, and being the soccer podcast, and going back to the popularity of what we were talking about a few episodes ago and everything, you don't even register soccer.
Well, Galaxy and I think Galaxy and LAFC has now created its own rivalry.
They have, and just like the hell is the
USA Mexico international soccer is pretty big. USA Mexico,
Columbus and Cincinnati and all that kind of stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, there's no MLS rivalry. You could list 100 rivalries before you actually got to an MLS one that someone would actually come out and say, "Oh, well, this is up there too." Now, across the pond, we Man City and Man United. That's a huge one. But basically, every team in the Premier League is a rivalry of each other. Same in Serie A and, what happens in South America and everything like that. But I'm saying here, where there's none. There's not a rivalry in soccer in the United States that comes remotely close to even a rivalry that would be 29th on the list in our minds.
I think a lot of that is history too. I said that the other day. Like, there's just not that deep storied history.
I mean, we're looking at what, 96? 96 is when MLS came to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But just overall, and that's why the popularity is not going to get there, because it's not taken like an Auburn, Alabama. Like, that's just our state, and that is so big. Duke, Carolina. That's 7 miles from each other. That's so big. And then you do the cross-state ones, Ohio States and Michigans, and the Bears and the Lions, and even, I mean, Packers, Bears, that NFC North. It's like everybody in that division is almost equivalent to NFC East. They hate each other. The Browns Steelers used to be something. It's not anymore because the Browns are not competitive, but that was a big one. But nowhere ever, and because it is relatively new on the professional side, do you see soccer? Nor does anybody openly talk about it, nor does it come into conversations. If you ask me, give it the top 10 rivalries, everybody's getting you a different top 10. I guarantee nobody puts an MLS team in there.
Fair. And I again, it's the problem is there's just too many options to pick from, right? So I think that's obviously the biggest thing. And if you look across the pond, Arsenal, Man U, right?
That's
FC Barcelona,
the thing. Like Arsenal,
FC Barcelona,
Man U,
Madrid. I mean, like you look at that and you go, okay. So I agree that soccer does not necessarily have that. I also agree that there has to be something historically that has to happen in order for that rivalry to even really exist on a map, right? And so, what does that even look like? If we look at, again, I say if you're looking at internationally, I think USA versus Mexico is a pretty big rivalry. And you would argue that if you were to talk soccer specifically in this country, that every time that they play, that matters. All right. Not USA, Canada, but USA, Mexico for sure. Okay.
Give that.
So I think if I were to put in that perspective, there are collegiate, right? We talked about that. Like every time Duke or North Carolina plays, that's a pretty big one. It doesn't really matter what sport. Army, Navy, obviously think about that, right? That's a pretty big rivalry. And that's because of why? Not anything to do with football. It's everything to do with the fact that those two things are connected. They're the armed forces, right? That's a big deal. Again, I think that like there's a lot of these crosstown, or whatever you want to call it. Possibly, I would maybe argue that maybe.
Did you hear that pop? What was that cartoon pop at the end of that? JT, you froze. You froze.
Oh.
It was like this cartoon pop before you came back.
Oh, that's great.
Oh boy.
You froze with your mouth wide open. You were like,
pop.
And then you started.
That's great.
But I would argue that to the New Yorker that maybe the Mets, and I know that Boston Red Sox, New York's a big deal, but there are two, New York Mets, New York Yankees. I think that every time those two teams meet each other, that
one is because it's a Subway Series and everything, but because it's National and American League, it doesn't happen as much.
Correct.
The Red Sox and the Yankees are playing. How many games is it, Nate, that a division rival will play?
I forget what the specific number is, but quite a bit.
It's like 16 or 19 or something like that.
Yeah.
In the upper
teens.
teens.
How does a rivalry game really work out when you have it like 16 times in the season? Plus, in the fact of
because it's always a big deal. You know that the Red Sox are coming into New York and Brooklyn, the Bronx, for 3 days, or the Yankees are coming into Fenway for 3 days. I mean, they truly do make that event. They make it big, and that's why. Go back to the World Series of last year. There was no way they were letting Shohei Ohtani play in the bright lights of Cleveland, Ohio for the World Series. That was LA and New York, regardless. And there was a good twist to that, when the Brooklyn Dodgers, when they started out there and then transplanted to LA, it was a big thing for the Yankees and the Dodgers to get together for that World Series. And it was cool. But then you go back to, you guys, I think, are Cubs, or Nate, I think you're a Cubs guy. Go back to 2016. The Cubs and the Indians weren't rivals, but that game was interesting because of the drought of the World Series that it entailed.
Right.
Baseball overall, Major League Baseball won in 2016 because either of those teams winning was going to be a historic moment. And it sucked as an Indians fan, I can tell you that. But I wasn't disappointed because of what it meant for baseball and the Cubs. It like resurrected the game in 2016. So it was a good thing.
Right.
No, I mean, it makes sense. And we are right there at 100 minutes. Like right there, like 15 seconds away.
That's why I brought that topic up, because we were dying. So I had to throw some. Nate's doing some sort of homework over there, and you kept falling in your chair. You're freezing like Max Headroom with your mouth open, and then funny cartoon pops.
Well, we did it. We got 100.
Congratulations, guys. Proud of both of you. It's really cool. And I've only been here for maybe a quarter of these episodes. So congratulations to both of you getting this started from day one, bringing me aboard. It's been a hell of a ride to get to 100. I'm glad I could celebrate that with you. And then, I'm all on board to let's get to 150 and then 200 from there. So thanks, guys.
Let's do it.
We'll say this. I think we're going to be taking the week off next week. So take a week. Because I know, Nathan, you're unavailable on Monday. And I have my kids have graduation stuff in the morning for like our 8th grade, 5th grade graduation. So I'll be unavailable. So I'm thinking we take the week. Take a week. Give ourselves a little bit of a refresher. What are you guys' thoughts?
I mean, I'll be around, Natalia. If you want to chat in the morning, I'm open to it.
All in. I mean, I have fun with this. All my stuff doesn't start until later with calling matches, and I have some stuff like today, the state track and field finals at North Central High School, IHSAA Champions Network. But JT, it's your call. It's your call. We can take a break. I'm down to do it. Let us know.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I mean, we can figure it out. I mean, if I don't make a couple shows, so be it. It is what it is. But that is a wrap on our 100th episode here of Inside the Game. We want to thank you for stopping by. Remember, you can watch this on YouTube, Roku, TV. You can also listen on all listening platforms here later today. But for John and Nathan, I'm Jonathan. I want to thank you for stopping by. Be back at it again next week. Maybe. Same time, same place. So long, everybody.